There are still many more things to reveal about Baldur's Gate 3 in the most recent interview that we had, so let's get in to the last of it. We've had many videos over the past week or so covering various aspects of the Dropped Frames interview with Swen and Baldur's Gate 3, the CEO and founder of Larian Studios. So let's get into the very last things that we've yet to cover, and that is going to be co-op, that is going to be Twitch integration that's going to be available and upgraded, that is going to be how a little tiny mechanics that we haven't covered is going to work, like resting, what the hardest thing was to do in Baldur's Gates 3, and like when it comes to the development process, the secret that they finally did reveal, and a character that is very reminiscent or a direct descendant of an annoying character from Baldur's Gate 1. So let's get into co-op. So there's some questions in co-op of how like conversation is going to be dictated when you go and start a conversation that may or may not be important to the story or quest that you're on, and how that's going to be controlled if you have four people in the game, including yourself, all doing separate things. Are they going to be included in the conversation every time you start a conversation? And who is going to be in control and be able to decide the roles and what choices that they choose? Well, unless it's a very major thing to the story, if you start a conversation, other people can still be doing other things and you can still make choices in the conversation, whoever started it. Whoever started that conversation is going to be the leader of that conversation. In big conversations that are very important to the story, it will pull everyone in, but still the person who initially started the conversation technically is the one that's going to click the button to decide. Now, other people in the game can still do other things while you're having these conversations. Like you can still get special buffs put onto you. They can help you out. They can cast guidance and things like that. That'll increase your rolls. And they might also give you the options available of what your other classes have, I'd imagine, right? If everyone's running a different class, all of those dialogue choices may pop up in the dialogue. All those dialogue choices may pop up in the actual quest, but it might just actually be pertained to the singular character who chooses to start talking. If you want to go a particular route, you're going to want a particular person to talk to them so you can have those dialogue choices available to you. Now, for Twitch integration, I believe, has existed on early access launch. There was always the ability for your Twitch audience to vote on the choices that you have in game and decide where the conversation is going. So that is apparently going to be upgraded for the release. So it's going to be better, have more choices, maybe more options, and be more smooth, which is great because it was a really great early access. I'm glad that they're bringing it in and going to have it ready for the release of the game. As for camping, I've seen some discussions about how resting is exactly going to work. When the game initially released, you were able to rest pretty much whenever you wanted, and so that allowed you to burn like very expensive features and spells, and then be able to leave and rest again to be able to do that and come back in so you can have all your spells and stuff again, which they're pretty much keeping that to the same degree, except that you'll have to have a resource to be able to do so. You will need to have camping supplies to continue to camp over and over to get your proper rest. There'll also be areas in the game called danger zones where you're not going to be able to do any resting whatsoever. So it's kind of going to be those war of attrition zones where you got to be careful about what you're spending in certain battles. But the reason why they have gone for this choice, they said, is because pretty much most battles are going to be relatively difficult depending on the difficulty you play on. Even on normal, every battle might be something that you might have to do multiple times because you misstep or you get hit with a crit. And when you factor in that, like, at any point a low level encounter could technically go really bad if they happen to get lucky and roll a few crits. That happens. What are my options? And so that's why they've put in like the ability to camp easily. They were asked what has made Larian, right? They asked the CEO, like, hey, what really makes your company what it is today? Because there are a lot of companies out there that don't make products like Larian does. Very few companies go into the very detailed nitty gritty of games and make them very large and expansive. Most of the time these days, games are a little bit more cookie cutter. They don't produce nearly as much as what Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be giving to the people. And his answer to that was that they're just a very passionate team, that they love what they're doing. He's very involved with the processes of his studio, And that passion is what brings them to bring the best product that they can, which is very great because I feel like in a lot of studios today, passion is kind of lost on the games that they make, so you don't really get the good games that we used to get decades ago. They also said while his product is very good and they very much enjoy their product, there was definitely things that needed to be cut when it comes to production. And we've gone over the things that are not going to be in the game in my last video, but there are probably other things that they probably wanted to spend more time. They probably wanted to make a system better, or they wanted to make an area more expansive, but they really couldn't because production timelines were happening or coming up, and they just had to leave it where it was. Like they had to be satisfied with what they have produced and with the passion that they have. I'm sure they wanted to do even more, but I'm sure everything in there is going to be fantastic regardless. And one of the employees were actually asked as well. This wasn't on the interview, but it was one of the streamers in the Dropped Frames podcast asked or said that he had talked to employees of Larian before. He didn't name the employee, but he asked them what is it that makes Larian for them, and they said Swen, which is the CEO and the person that in the Dropped Frames interview as well, saying that without their CEO and without their founder, that they would not be able to run the way that they do and make the products that they make, which I thought was really cool and kind of sweet too. A few other things to throw out there. Massive rewards for exploration in this game if it wasn't already apparently obvious. If you are not exploring, you are missing things, so you better get out there and explore every inch, pick up every rock to find if there might be something under there. Because actually, there is sometimes stuff under rocks. I have found magical items, like minor ones, under rocks before, so you better check under every rock because there might be a magical item under there. Also, a long time ago, Spin talked about how he had this huge secret that he couldn't reveal yet, but the secret has been revealed. It was revealed before the Drop Frames podcast. If anyone was still confused that there might be some secret that they wasn't revealed, it has been. It was the Dark Urge, and we've talked about the Dark Urge already, and the Dark Urge is really great, but I think it's not going to be my first playthrough because, as I said in other videos as well, he has said that maybe you should create a custom character your first playthrough, then do Dark Urge your second, because you want to know what it actually changes, which I thought was cool. And then we have one final thing to look at, and I thought this was really cool. They introduced a character into the game, or one of the NPCs that you'll be dealing with the game, which was actually voiced by one of the people that was on the podcast words. It was actually voiced by Co Carnage. And if you don't know who Co Carnage is, he's a very large streamer, but he's not just a streamer. He's also done many voice acting roles. He's been in Cyberpunk, he's been in Dave the Diver, he's been in Solasta, he's been in a lot of different roles, somewhere between half a dozen to a dozen roles at this point. So he is a relatively experienced actor. He's not just being picked up because he's a fan of the game. So we're actually going to watch his reveal character because it's actually a throwback to a character in Baldur's Gate 1. Alright, there we go. Now it started. I had to refresh it.
There's a character who's written to be intentionally incredibly annoying, and people who've played the original games will likely recognize certainly the line from which he's descended.
My name's Narber, adventurer to be, soon to be the best adventurer anyone's ever seen.
So the minute you meet him, he starts following you around, constantly pestering you. You can try and tell him to shut up and he just doesn't.
Happy birthday, dear.
I love it. Just a super annoying character. You gotta have the characters in here that are annoying.
Sounds awful. I don't think I want to sound like that.
So the game gives you an incredible amount of freedom. So if in real life you met Co Carnage in the street, you could decide to push him in the river. In the game, if you meet Co Carnage in the street, you could push him in the river.
Excuse me.
But you really shouldn't push Co Carnage into the river in real life.
Good job, I'm a strong swimmer. No drowning for me. Ha ha!
You can kill him and he still won't stop talking.
Why are you leaving?
I love that. Even in death, he's gonna talk to you.
So much.
I assume that they're probably casting Speak Dead on him, or Speak with Dead. I doubt he's just coming back to life and telling you these things. That would be very spooky if that was gonna be what's happening in the game. But yes, that's it. I think we've just about covered pretty much everything that has come out from the interview from Dropped Frames a little under a week ago. And I do think there's a little bit more news that's supposed to be dropping before the game actually releases, but I don't think they've quite released anything. And press codes are supposed to be going out for people. I've requested one. I haven't got one yet. I think it's unlikely that I will get one, but I would love to get one if I did. That'd be absolutely amazing. We got some artwork here that's really great. There was a little video that was going over Orin the Red, a shape-shifting sadistic portrayed by the incredible Maggie the Bard, which was really interesting, showing one of the villains in the game and their interactions and little tidbits of cutscenes and stuff like that. Absolutely loved it. But anyways, I will see you guys later. We are getting very, very close to the release. For me, it's going to be releasing at 8 a.m. So on 8 a.m. on Thursday, if you guys haven't, I will be streaming on Twitch and TikTok, and you guys can catch Baldur's Gate 3 there. See you guys later. Bye.